Check. 1 2. Check. 1 2 1 2. Check. 1 2 1 2. Check. 1 2 1 2 2. Hey. Check. 1 2 1 2.
I mean, there's a whole empty table. I want to be able to.
Where you from over here?
I get to see you better this way, Mary.
I love
Don't
it.
worry about that.
Cute. It's a charmer. I love it.
Trying to inflate my ego.
Yes, he's a charmer. I
One,
like
two.
it.
We are live.
We are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to begin our committee meeting. I want to thank everyone that came to see the phenomenal event we had this morning with the Golden Isles. So thank you, Representative Saines, for hosting us here in your beautiful area. We are different here on coastal Georgia, and we have an enormous product that can help all of us. I even mentioned earlier how the tourism industry can reduce property taxes, especially by using the revenue on loss, BLOS, ELOS, those kinds of things. But we're here today, and that's specifically why we're here today, is to see how a change or an increase in our restructured funding could enhance Georgia's statewide tourism efforts and to expand the market and the reach, if you will. But before we get started, I would like to acknowledge our sponsors, the Jekyll Island Authority. Boy, y'all really put it on last night. Thank you for hosting with our committee. The Georgia Hotel and Lodging Association. Chris, I know you're here. Tourism Leadership Council, front and center. Visit Georgia, Joe. Thank you so much. Visit Savannah. Thank you, Joe. Golden Isles Development Authority did an amazing job in hosting us. The Westin Jekyll Island really has rolled out the red carpet for the committee. The Golden Island CVB, front and center for tourism. Jekyll Island Club Resort. The Brunswick Golden Isles Chamber of Commerce. Hughes Public Affairs really did beyond the call of duty today. And the Georgia Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau. Again, want a special thank you to Alexa Hawkins of the Jekyll Island Authority. Are you in the room, Alexa? Stand up so we can give you a hand. For those of the committee that had a tour last night of the lights, probably the best in the country for Christmas lights, and some of the committee that had never seen those before, is really something else. Wanted to thank you all for coming today and spending some time as we try to tackle this issue of moving from the bottom somewhere up in the chain of funding for tourism, spending for advertising. Want to first, before we get started, recognize Scott McQuaid and the CEO of Sea Island, Scott Stilson. Are you both of you come up here and one at a time, maybe come address us, if you will, and come to the mic.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to say thank you all for coming. My name is Scott McQuaid. I'm the president and CEO of the Golden Isles Convention and Visitors Bureau. We're so happy to have you here at Jekyll Island and in the Golden Isles. We're also just so appreciative of this subject matter. Of course, our organization leads the tourism effort for Glenn County, and it is a very important industry to our community. Over 20,000 people in our community are employed by tourism. It's the largest single industry here. It creates an economic impact of $1.6 billion a year. And beyond just the 7 million visitors that come and stimulate our economy and our business, they save taxpayers an average of $3,000 a year on their tax bills. So as you are all discussing this morning, it is the golden goose, and it's certainly the golden goose in the Golden Isles. And it provides a tremendous impact back to the residents here. So thank you all for your efforts and for this discussion this morning.
Morning. I'm the shorter, better-looking Scott. Scott Stylen. I'm president and CEO of Sea Island Company. I want to extend my welcome and my thanks to the Jekyll Island team for hosting and for everybody for really kind of rolling out the red carpet, as Chairman Stevens said, to be here. This is a special place. It's a special community. I I think it was Senator Hodges who mentioned that, or Chairman Stevens who mentioned that everybody in the legislature knows about this area and this community. I came to Sea Island 14 years ago. One of the first things that I heard when I made my first trip up to Atlanta to go meet with some legislators was, how was Sea Island? We love that. It's the crown jewel of the state of Georgia. And 9 different people said the same thing. So it was either a really good lobbyist or that's what people believed. We're going to be celebrating 100 years here in 2028. This industry and what we have down here is really special. You know, I know you're going to see a presentation. I think the presentation is pretty compelling in terms of where we stand and what we need to be able to accomplish. I mean, we're doing this in the state of Georgia with 1.5 hands tied behind our back. We're doing this in a way to allow, you know, as Senator Hodges said and Chairman Stevens said this morning, what could happen if we had more opportunity, if there was more funding, if there was more opportunity for us? I can tell you our neighbors to the north and the south are doing it, and we are in a fierce competition with them. And that is really impactful, and it allows us to celebrate what the state has to offer, not just what our local, you know, Golden Isles community has to offer, but what the state has to offer. And the tourism industry is extraordinarily impactful. It is the kind of place where you can start at the ground level and work your way to the top. We have lots of examples like that at Sea Island where we celebrate those examples. We have a Quarter Century Club, which is people that work for us for 25 years and longer. We're going to be at 145 members, active team members who are in that Quarter Century Club. So it provides stability. And in terms of economic impact and what's there, we recently did a study about what Sea Island contributes to Glynn County's economy. And the total output, directly and indirectly, is $1.5 billion. We're responsible directly or indirectly for 1 out of every 7 jobs in this community. And we pay directly and indirectly over $50 million in taxes to the county. This is the kind of impact that the tourism industry can have, not just in our little community here, but across the state of Georgia. And this is the kind of return you can expect that Chairman Stevens was referencing earlier this morning. So thank you very much for taking up this effort and for really trying to make Georgia the #1 state for tourism. We are staunchly behind you. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, I think before we get started, I'd like to go around so that you know who's up here on the committee that's representing you. So I'm going to start to my left with Representative Franklin Chevrolet Toyota.
Yeah, new car dealer, which is great. So if you need a car, let me know. But I represent Southern Bullock. Georgia Southern is part of that in my district. And then it goes all the way down to Northern Bryan, and the Hyundai plant is in that. So that's the best way to describe my constituency. But happy to be here and always love coming down to the coast. Thank you.
My name is, that's probably better that way. My name is Vance Smith. I represent District 138. That is part of Muskogee, Columbus, part of Harris County, my home county, and part of Troup County. And I have to tell you, I love it. My wife's actually with me, and we love coming here. We look out our window in the mornings, and we're looking across the Chattahoochee to Alabama. So when I got here last night, I looked out the curtain so I could see the Atlantic all in one day, you know. But it's a great trip, great area over here, and thanks for what y'all do to make it like this. So glad to be here, and Merry Christmas to you.
Well, good morning. I'm Matthew Gamble from Cartersville, Georgia, House District 15. Honored to serve on this committee with Ron Stevens and all the other members of the committee. This issue is near and dear to my heart, and I unfortunately have to leave a little bit early, and I'm going to miss some of our discussion after lunch. But I do want to put a number in the minds of everyone here today, because it's what brings us here today, and that is $11 million. $11 million is how much we as a state invest in tourism on an annual basis in the budget. And I certainly don't want to ever make anyone think that $11 million isn't a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But many of us are from communities that have construction projects that might be a fire station or a public safety center or a city hall that could easily run $11 million or even $20 million. And so I think that we have to put that in perspective. We've gotten a lot out of a little. How much more could we do if we really look at investing in tourism in our state? And I hope that that will be one of the things that we really focus on, in addition to some other things with our recommendations. So thank y'all for letting me be a part of the meeting today.
My name is Bill Hitchens, and I'm from Effingham County. I represent the southern part of Effingham County and the west side of Chatham County. My district's the third fastest growing district in the state. When we had redistricting this time, I had to cut 20,000 people out. But Gulfstream Aerospace is located there, has 11,000 employees, average about $85,000 a year. The container port is in my district. And right across I-16 from the far side of my district is the new Hyundai plant. So we have a lot of growth. I was surprised to find out that we were the third fastest growing in the state. And out of the top 10 fastest growing states, my district is the only one that's not Metro Atlanta.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. I'm Gerald Green. I'm the representative of Southwest Georgia, I guess you can say that, because I have the largest House district in the state with Dougherty, Calhoun, Clay, Quitman, Miller, Seminole, Randolph, Early counties, all a beautiful area of the state, but we're not fast growing. We still believe in picking and choosing the people that come to live in our area. But I'm delighted to be here. I always love coming to Jekyll, and we were certainly afforded the best hospitality yesterday and every time we come to this area. And as Vance said, Merry Christmas to all of you.
All right. Greetings, everyone. My name is Dr. Anissa Jones. I just want to first say thank you to everyone that brought us here to be a part of this today. I proudly serve Georgia House District 143, which encompasses part of Macon, south of Macon, central Macon, all the way into Warner Robins. So I do have the Warner Robins Air Force Base in my district, and I have a steadfast commitment to economic development and tourism. I'm very excited to be a part of this committee with a wonderful chair that allows us to be able to champion for policies that strengthen infrastructure in this state. So thank you so much for inviting us and having this wonderful dialogue today. And again, Merry Christmas.
I'm Edna Jackson from Savannah. I represent the 165th district that encompasses all of the southern part where Savannah State is located, Tybee Island, not Tybee Island, Thunderbolt, Georgia. We go all the way to the north to the river and across the river down into another little city, not a little city, but I'm happy to be a part of this committee because tourism is very important in our city, as you know. What I saw here last evening was wonderful because it shows how this area has grown through the years. And I'm kind of old, so I know the before and now the after. I do think that we need to bring people in from Savannah to see what has happened here in this area. This committee works as a very good committee to bring people together, to bring tourism into our community. And all I want to say is I bring you greetings from the hostess city of the South, Savannah. That's my fire.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm privileged enough. Good morning. My name is Stephen Sains. I'm privileged enough to represent Jekyll in the House. And in terms of tourism product, I don't think we could be any richer from seeing the gilded buildings come to life on Jekyll Island to being able to see a wild horse roaming in the ruins of Dungeness on Cumberland Island with the backdrop of a nuclear submarine going out to shore. But I appreciate the leadership of our chairman in this committee in terms of being very strategic on how we can advocate for more tourism dollars, but we know we are getting a lot for very little in comparison. And the biggest sadness I get is when I know a family member or someone coming to our area and they choose Fernandina Beach to go to, and we know we have a competitive state right to our south and our north, and glad we're having a conversation on how to better position ourselves and what we know is a better product.
You know, the advertising dollars that we spend thank you, Stephen. The advertising dollars that we spend in tourism for too long has gone under the radar. I'll give you an example of something that the general public just doesn't know. It's just before the pandemic, we were just rocking along. The state was doing pretty good, but the chairman of our Ways and Means Committee, who's in the back, stand up, Brett Harrell, if you don't mind. Now, while he's standing there, don't sit down. Nobody knew that we were going to go into a 2-year deep dive into everybody staying in their home. At the time, people weren't paying sales tax on things you were buying on the internet, eBay, Amazon, all of that stuff. Well, he didn't think that was right. Flying under the radar, it was called the Marketplace Facilitator Act, and I guarantee you most people didn't know it outside the Ways and Means Committee. That one piece of legislation was a game changer for the state of Georgia because it kept us afloat. While people couldn't go out and shop, they went ahead and bought things online, and it kept the state solvent. So, you know, Brett doesn't get the accolades that he deserves, but this falls into the same category, ladies and gentlemen. Other states get it. I'm ready for a 12-to-1 return, and I'm ready to see the things that most people don't even know because they're hidden jewels through advertising our state so that we can bring these dollars back. We're going to start off today by the gentleman that I used to know as the head of the Department of Natural Resources for a whole lot of years, and we're going to bring up Mark Williams to tell us a little bit about the amazing stuff that the very place we're sitting in today and everything he's done. But again, thank you for hosting us, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's great to be with you all today. I said when I left Atlanta I'd never wear a tie again, so congratulations. You got me back in a tie. Well, welcome. I hope everybody had a great time last night. Again, thank you, Alexa, for helping out the committee to put on a good first night here. I know we got some first-timers, so I want to talk about a few firsts we have here on Jekyll. We had the first sea turtle nest this year. Let's hear it. Consequently, we had the first hatchlings with the first nest. We have the first named Georgia Grown store. We did a partnership with the Department of Ag this year. So over in the historic district, it's not just Georgia Grown certified, it is the first named Georgia Grown store, and we're very proud of that. The first transatlantic phone call was made. I think Gerald Green was in the, I'm sorry, sorry about that, Gerald. Was made from the Club Hotel back during the Gilded Age in the 20s. The first draft of the Federal Reserve was drawn up. A system of banking was drawn up in the Club Hotel. You know, back in those days when they had names here like the Rockefellers, the Pulitzers, the Stevens, and folks like that. Y'all didn't get that joke? Come on. 1/6 of the world's wealth was a member there, and so a bunch of bankers snuck out of New York and stayed a weekend and drew up, for better or worse, the Federal Reserve system of banking. The first beer was brewed in the state of Georgia on Jekyll Island. How about that? And the thing I'm most proud of, we did this past year, we have the first autism certified water park in the state of Georgia, and actually the only one, so we're very proud of that. So a lot of great firsts here on Jekyll. Jekyll Island, I don't take anything for granted. I was a state representative and I used to sit in committees and nobody wants to ask the dumb question, so I take nothing for granted. So I'll get a couple little factoids about Jekyll. Jekyll is a state agency. We do the same reporting a lot of the same reporting to the state. We do the audits with the state and everything. But two big mandates for Jekyll. We're mandated to be self-funded. Or as we say in South Georgia, we chop our own wood on the island. So our operations are self-funded. And the other very important mandate that we have is we can only be 1,675 of these acres can be developed. I implore you legislators to never change that. We think that's what makes us unique, the great balance of nature and stuff we have here. So we are, we're self-funded and we're mandated with our development. And let's see. I got to tell one quick story if I mess up on the PowerPoints. My second meeting as DNR in 2010, they said, and I was not a bureaucrat, I came from the private sector, and so everybody does PowerPoints, Commissioner, everybody does PowerPoints. So I'm up there and I'm going through and I practice with my PowerPoint. So we had a big boardroom and it was a board meeting presenting the budget. The executive director, the number 2 guy in EPD, is sitting on the front row waiting to give his and falls asleep on my 4th slide and falls out of the chair. So nobody go to sleep. So a little bit about Jekyll. We have 3.3 million visitors a year. That's based on a federal formula that they use that says 2.5 people per car. A low month for us for cars is about 90,000 cars across the causeway. A high month's about 130. And for comparison, in 1980, there were 80,000 cars a year that came across that causeway. So we've grown a lot, and shows there on the chart. A lot of people, when I speak, they say, well, you're self-funded, how do you do that? And they say, I know how it is. It's that $10 you get from me going across that causeway. Well, you can see here, do I have a pointer? I don't have a pointer, but at the bottom, although parking's very important to us, that's only about $7 million of our dollars. The main thing we have is here, our amenities. That's what funds us. That's almost half of our entire budget every year. And what funds amenities? Visitation and tourism, those people coming across the island. So you can see here we operate a little bit like a city. You'll see a category up there for utilities and maintenance. Jekyll Island has its own fire department. We have our own water and sewer treatment plant. So we have about 800 private residences on the island. And so the residents often remind me I'm an unelected mayor. So that's part of my role here because we have so many private residences. And you can see we have residential leases and business leases like the Westin Hotel and our private residents that also fund us. Just looking at last year, we had a great year last year. We beat budget by about $3 million. We're off to a better start this year. This is a little bit stale, but just in our August, we were $801,000 above budget. So we're doing well as a self-funded entity. Our amenities, y'all took part in some of those last night, but you can see, for instance, the Sea Turtle Center, it's a big draw for us. It's Georgia's only sea turtle hospital. 2.6 million, 125,000 tours. Summer Waves is only open 3 months, but generates 3.4 million with 135 visitors. The Mosaic, you did part of that last night. The trolley tours are part of that. You can see 43,000, almost 44,000 public tours. And then the Jekyll Island, when I was at DNR, I had all 60 state park campgrounds. And this is the #1 as far as occupancy campground in the state inventory. 78% occupancy over last year, and just in March we were at 97%. We have mini golf, and we have golf in the middle. Golf is huge to tourism in this area. Scott Stylen, who you heard from earlier, has beautiful private resort courses. We have 3 public courses here, 3 18 holes. We invested, and again, these were not state-issued bonds. They're JIA bonds that we issued a year and a half ago for $21 million to start our golf improvement plan. We spent $6.5 million on 1 18-hole course, and then we combined a historic 9 holes that was built in 1927 with 18 holes of another course, and we just opened last month our Great Dunes course. When you leave the convention center, if you take a right, you can see it down there, and it's getting great reviews. We have mini golf and bike rentals and other things. We also operate retail shops to generate income. Revitalization. A lot of you that have been here or been coming to Jekyll for a long time realize that about 20 years ago, starting the planning, and we're about 15 years of really doing it. We started the revitalization of Jekyll. Mr. Hodges was chairman of the, Senator Hodges was chairman of the Jekyll Island Authority when all this started. And so as a result of that, the building you're in, the beach village, and a lot of just revitalization. We've got 11 hotels on the island now. And so we're winding down that. We're almost at the end of it. All we have left is to finish the golf development plan. We're through with the courses. We've got one more RFP to issue for a stay and play hotel, and then we'll be almost finished with revitalization. Again, that's tied to the mandate we have. We're almost at that threshold of acreage. There may be a plot of land here and a plot of land there, but generally speaking, the role of the JIA moving forward after this revitalization is not to build more and build up and build out. It's to make the amenities and make the experiences we have on the island here better. One thing I want to highlight, because I want to thank the legislature, is our new public safety complex. It's down here. If you take a right, go to mini golf and take a left, you can see it. We were able to get into that this year. It serves as the post headquarters for Post 35 for the State Patrol. I mentioned we have a fire department, but the State Patrol acts as our police on the island, and so very proud to give them a nice place to stay, and especially for our firemen. And we're getting a ladder truck coming in January, so we need a good place to house that. Talking about revitalization, you can just see, it's been mentioned here from the podium, just the drive of what public and private partnerships, and Jekyll's really a case study for that. Starting about 15 years ago, you can see how much private investment was put with the public dollars that were invested. Not quite through. We got those little coins right in the middle, and that basically is our new stay and play hotel we're going to do an RFP on, and then our 24 new condos, privately done condos and townhouses on the south end. They're about 3/4 of the way through with construction, and that is the old site of the Buccaneer Hotel, so it was on developed property. So you can see those are pretty big numbers that we're coming towards the end of. Island impact, Scott mentioned his. These are a little bit stale. We probably need to do another study. These are from 22, but you can see the impact to the local economy on the left, and then the impact to the state. So we're a big player in driving the economy, just this little island here. Some of our partners that we market and advertise with, Alexa's in charge of all this, and these are just some of the publications we've won national and international awards for some of our publications, our magazines, our posts on social media, and those type of things. Marketing and promotion, this is just some more of this, and Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, we spend almost $4 million just on our little island. I want you to know that, because we think it's important. Times get tough during COVID, or times get tough financially, and the worst thing you can do is stop spending on, I see Alexa, I get on to her about her budget every year, I'm sorry, but she said, yeah, that's right. You got to keep pumping dollars into marketing, because again, when I showed you how we're funded, if we don't have people coming and they don't know about us, we have to roll up the carpet here. My 301 employees will have to find somewhere else to go. But these are some of the great things that our marketing team comes through. I especially like the one on the top where nature plays through for our golf. Some more marketing things we do. We host what I consider the best festival in the Southeast, our Shrimp and Grits. We just had it not long ago, had about 28,000 people come across the causeway and have a good time there. This is our Cold Stun Plunge that raises money for our Sea Turtle Center. That was a freezing about 2 weeks ago. We host many golf tournaments here. You experience the trolley tours, but they go on all year long. We have ghost top trolley tours and things like that. And then down here on the right, our island treasures that's sort of taken on a life of its own, and where people come and hunt those little island treasures there. And anyway, that's a brief snapshot of sort of what we do. I want y'all to know that we stand with this committee. We stand with Department of Economic Development. They're a great partner of ours, our local CVB, to move this ball forward. As you can see, marketing is very important to us because we got to protect, what we do here. But we think we think the state of Georgia can become, if not the number one place for tourism, at least move up that rung a lot of levels, because it's just important to us, and we have so much to offer. I was raised in Tallulah Falls, Georgia. So we got the Northeast, we're talking about the coast here, we got the Northeast Georgia mountains. In the Piedmont Range, there's just so much history. And then the coast is down here. We're the only convention center, oceanfront convention center south of New Jersey. So we just got a lot to offer here. So thank you for letting me present, and anything we can do down here on this little island to help y'all, we stand ready. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Mark. I want to bring up Rusty Haygood, who's the Commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs. Rusty is going to tell us about how to follow the money in tourism, how it's paid for, and what does it do, basically. He's been with the state now for 11 years.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone for the opportunity to be with you again this morning. It was a pleasure to be with you last evening as well. As I started to talk this morning, I want to spend a little bit of time talking about one of the ways that the tourism marketing and promotion is addressed across the state. That's through hotel motel tax funding. This is much more granular than what Representative Gamble was talking about a few moments ago with the big money that gets put in the budget. This is funding that is utilized by communities all across the state. And that's where the Department of Community Affairs comes into play with this conversation, and I'll spend just a little bit of time talking through that. And Mr. Chairman, before you accuse me of stealing your slides here, I did submit these before you made your comments this morning. They sound eerily similar to what you were talking about while we were in the other session as well. But when we talk about the impact of tourism spending, there are hundreds of thousands of jobs that are directly in the tourism industry across the state. This is very important, making sure that we don't forget about that critical component. There are numerous folks within the state, their jobs, their livelihoods, that's a part of this tourism industry. But also, when we talk about what the benefits of tourism are, we've got numerous ways that tourists come into the state, they're spending their money. They're making sure that they aren't making sure, but as a result, we are making sure that their funds are used to improve our roads, our schools, our water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, et cetera. And then those are things that we get to benefit from when they go home. All of those attractions, the infrastructure, et cetera, they're assets to our community. They're impactful on the quality of life that Georgians get to experience each and every day. And as I move to this, this is where we start talking about the various ways that communities are creating revenue and expending it on tourism activities, tourism promotion. And I think it's important to go back to that bundle of sticks illustration that was used at the end of the Chamber's meeting this morning. I think when we're talking about what are other states doing, what is our state doing in the big, complete process of tourism promotion, there are also hundreds of communities around the state doing their own promotion at the same time. And I don't want that to get lost in the conversation. But this is talking about those little individual sticks and not the big bundle in totality. Going back 50 years now is when the state of Georgia first permitted counties and municipalities to impose a hotel motel tax. I'm not going to ask if any of you were part of sponsoring that legislation, but the evolution between 1975 and today is significant. Brunswick, here on the coast, was the first community to take advantage of the hotel motel tax and impose that on folks staying in the lodging establishments across the community. When we go to 2008, we see a change in statute, and I think hotel motel tax statute is one of the more complex, convoluted statutes that's on the books. There were 24 different paragraphs by which communities collected, imposed, and were held responsible for expending the tax in the 24 different manners. And I think that's confusing to folks. I think whenever one community talks to another community and they get differing responses as to who's doing what, it causes confusion. Statute was amended so that everyone moving forward, if you start imposing the tax or if you change the way you are imposing the tax, you fall under one of 3 new paragraphs. However, there are still legacy paragraphs being collected under. There are 40 governments collecting under 20 of the legacy statutory paragraphs today. So we have more than 20 different ways that communities collect, impose, expend, and contract for the expenditure of those funds throughout the state. So very challenging for folks to really get a good understanding of what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, and what the ramifications of that might be. On the local level, this is hotel motel tax expenditure or collections, on an annual basis. This is what is taken in at that point of sale by the hoteliers across the state. I think you have a good understanding of what that dip is around 2020 right there, but it also shows the volatility of the tax collection across the state. This hotel motel tax funds numerous marketing efforts, but when you see disruptions and interruptions like that, it does have an impact across the state. I think Joe may be able to speak more specifically to it, but I understand that Savannah, Atlanta, some of our major markets did see a significant drop in hotel motel tax revenue during that period of time. There were a few anomalies along the coast, specifically in the mountains, where people were doing more remote work at that point in time, whenever the world was largely shut down, but they did experience they did experience a measurable increase in the hotel motel tax collections at that point in time. But it was fairly marginal in scope. I haven't done the research, but I've looked at some of the cursory information that has been assembled comparing our state's imposition of hotel motel tax to some of the surrounding states. It's somewhat similar in nature in that the percentages are in the same ballpark and the expenditures can be used for similar activities. But within Georgia, if you look in the center, there's a circle that you can see that gives the base hotel motel tax, room rate. That's what's paid. That's what these other taxes are calculated off of. The $5 fee per night is going to transportation purposes. That's not going to be a product of the room rate, but it is also collected right off the top. At the top of the graphic, you see the local sales and use tax. That a portion's going to the state, and the balance of that goes to the locals. This varies from community to community based upon what level of local tax they are imposing. Lost, splost, e-lost, T-splost, et cetera, transportation in the metro Atlanta communities, et cetera. So you've got that piece that is being collected. On the bottom of the slide, you will see the local hotel motel excise tax that's collected. Right now, all 20-something paragraphs that communities are collecting off of ranges from 2% to 8%. And depending on what paragraph you are collecting under, it's got some different parameters and requirements in there. There are two nuanced pieces to the hotel motel tax expenditure, and I will try to talk through them and give a little more specificity here. But at the top of the slide, you will see tourism, conventions, and trade shows. That's TCT. When you're thinking about that, just think marketing, promotion. Tourism product development is those physical assets that are on the ground to give the folks that come into the community something to do, a place to go, something of that nature. So I want to talk just a couple of minutes about each of those components and what they mean as it pertains to expenditure of hotel motel tax dollars. Tourism, conventions, and trade shows is defined in code as planning, conducting, or participating in programs of information and publicity designed to attract or advertise tourism, conventions, and trade shows. Those are the dollars that are expended, whether that be a billboard campaign, whether that's a TV, a radio, buying ads in magazines, brochures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are promotional type activities. Part of the code says it's got to be spent during the fiscal year in which it's collected. That, again, when you get to the volatility at times when you see these disruptions, that could be challenging for some communities to abide by the letter of the law in the way that they are expending these funds. Granted, the intent is absolutely not for folks to just hoard the funds and not spend them after they've been collected, but there are challenges in the law. And the big piece of this is with the tourism, convention, and trade show carve-out, it must be expended with a destination marketing organization. What is a DMO? The way it's defined in code is very simply a 501c6. A 501c6 organization is going to be the entity that you would be contracting with in order to expend these funds. Unless you're under one of the legacy paragraphs, it doesn't necessarily require you to adhere to that particular component. And these are typically chambers of commerce, convention and visitors bureaus, or like entities across the state. So whenever you are looking at the promotional piece of the tourism, conventions, and trade shows portion of the marketing dollars that are required to be spent, the DMO must be contracted by that specific community. The jurisdiction that's imposing the tax has to contract with an entity to spend those dollars on their behalf. I think that that's probably because when the act was implemented back in 1975, the legislature probably thought local governments do a really good job of making sure that the water and sewer systems are maintained, maintaining roads, operating recreational program for youth, but promoting tourism and strategic planning for that might not necessarily be in a local government's wheelhouse. So structuring a tax so that the hoteliers, the folks that are within the tourism industry have a say in how that is spent to make sure that the individuals that are helping generate that tax are having a say in how that is expended was my guess as to the why behind why this was put in place as it was. There's the contractual agreement and a budget plan that has to be submitted by that DMO on an annual basis so that everyone knows how these funds are going to be spent. There's accountability, but there's a process involved in that. With tourism product development, we're moving over more toward the physical aspects of this at this point in time. It is really intended to create and expand physical assets. It can be the capital cost to construct such a facility. It can be the operational expenses as well. You will not see a requirement of a destination marketing organization associated with this. This is not marketing. It's physical location driven. And the last bullet point on the slide is for those that are collecting under paragraph 51B. That's one of the 3 new paragraphs that were created a handful of years ago. I believe that was 2008. This is for a community collecting between 6 and 8%. That's what we see most of the communities that are coming in a new position to collect the hotel motel tax. They're coming in that 6 to 8%. The majority of the amount over and above I'll get into the base 3% in a moment, but over and above the base 3% goes to the marketing component. Up to 1.5% of the funding can be used for that tourism product development. Let me give you a couple of examples to make this a little bit clearer. After I talk about what qualifies. You probably can't read this, and I apologize, but it's all of the lines within code. It talks about stadiums, it talks about golf courses, speedways, welcome centers, wayfinding signage, museums, parks, performing arts facilities. All of these are destinations. These are physical amenities within the community that visitors can take advantage of. They can go into these. It's part of the visitor experience, and making sure that we do have these facilities in the communities to keep them, to encourage them to stay, to spend more money, and things of that nature. They should be spent within the year that they're collected, and the other takeaway here is the tourism product development funds can be used to secure debt for larger projects. So those two kind of potentially have challenges there. You're not supposed to bank the funds. However, it is used for large-scale capital projects. And we do see some communities that have trouble understanding that they have to expend the funds when they're collected, not collect for 10 years and then begin the process of building a certain facility. That's a misconception within the law that we do have to talk to folks about. So let's talk about a couple of these ways that the hotel motel tax is expended once it's collected. If you are collecting under the lowest collection rate paragraph, you're collecting 1 to 3%. The entire amount of that can be unrestricted. The recipient local government can use that for whatever they choose it to be. A lot of times you see that go back into general funds, but 1 to 3%, it's basically unrestricted for them to do as they see fit. I've got an example here of someone collecting at 5% within the appropriate code section 51A3. The first 3 pennies are, again, unrestricted. Local government can do as they see fit with that. The next 2 pennies are going to be for the promotion and the marketing activities that the destination marketing organization is going to be expending. The 3%, the 3 cents, excuse me, you do not have to have any DMO involved in that process because that's for the local government to use as they see fit. It's not illegal for them to put the whole 5% in the promotions budget. We typically don't see that though, but unrestricted means unrestricted. They can use it for any legal purpose. On the 2 cents, the destination marketing organization is the entity that would be responsible for expending those within the parameters of state law. And the last illustration is when we get to someone collecting on the upper end of that. I'm using an 8% illustration here, whereas on the left you will see that the first 3 cents that are collected are going to be unrestricted. Again, local government can do as they see fit. In the middle, you see the tourism, conventions, and trade shows. That's 3.5 cents that is collected on that 8 cents on the dollar. That goes to promotions, and then 1.5 cents is going to the tourism product development. Are you confused?
Very much so.
I think that speaks to the complexities and the nuances of the hotel motel tax law within the state. And I didn't even go into the 20 legacy paragraphs that have their own nuances in and of themselves. So Within this, there are numerous paragraphs that communities are going to be collecting based on. There are numerous ways that communities are charged with expending those dollars based upon which paragraph they are collecting on. And I think it's important to realize these nuances, these complexities, as we have a conversation about funding and about how to move forward and continue to enhance Georgia's position as it comes to tourism across the country. I'm not going to really spend any time here talking about these little nuances, but you will have access to the PowerPoint slideshow. And Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want me to stand ready for questions or if we turn it over to someone else.
Now, if you will, Rusty, if you'll hang around a minute, I think you just nailed part of our problem with hotel motel tax. The question is, I guess, you've got, hypothetically, you've got a new elected across the board city, mayor, council, they don't stagger. They will go out and get a new, hypothetically, a new city manager. It's got to be amazingly difficult if they've got a significant hotel base to make sure that they're not withholding the funds to run their city because they just, hey, this is tax revenue. Do you guys ever have to deal with that?
Yes, sir, we do. The Department of Community Affairs is statutorily charged with a process where by second quarter of each calendar year, individuals, and individuals could be anybody in the state, a taxpayer, a business, a government official, a chamber of commerce, whomever, they can file a complaint about how the local government is expending the hotel motel tax dollars. We as an agency are charged with doing an investigation associated with that complaint. And each year we take that to a hotel motel tax performance review board. And the Hotel Motel Tax Performance Review Board is tasked with determining if there are remedial actions that need to be taken, implementation of best practices, things of that nature, in order to make sure that the integrity of the hotel motel tax program is adhered to. And the number of complaints that are received on an annual basis varies. There's no rhyme or reason as to why and when we hear those, but we do have the obligation and the responsibility to investigate those, present them to the Performance Review Board, and make some determination as to whether those remediations are necessary.
Good. Members?
Yes. Captain, is there any way we can get a copy of what the presentation, those screens way, up there?
Pull your mic closer to you, Representative.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No.
I was asking, is there any way possible that we can get a copy of the presentation that you just made? Because it's very difficult, to see some of the stuff. And you gave an excellent report to us to tell us what is not, and all of that. But I would like to see it in hard copy.
Absolutely.
I can't see it.
Understood.
Because I had eye surgery.
Understood. I was having trouble seeing some of it, and I was standing beside it. So we'll be happy to make sure that you get that.
Thank you.
Other members? Yes, sir.
So thank you for this report. I appreciate it. A lot of this was new to me.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate it. My understanding is there's no regulation or no accountability unless there is someone that calls your office to question the use of the funds for the municipalities.
That is a good generalization of what reality is.
And is it the industry's desire to see some reform come to this and some correction in the law or clarity with it? Or
I would honestly prefer to defer to the industry to answer that question as opposed to answering on their behalf.
It's true.
That's what I was thinking, but I just didn't.
Anyone else? Thank you, Rusty.
Yes, sir.
Incredibly deep, and I can see where it's confusing. Thank you. Next, Joe Marinelli.
Okay.
Joe is the president and CEO of the Visit Savannah. Joe's spent more than 30 years experience in the tourism and hospitality. His organization is responsible for marketing Savannah, Chatham County, and a key partner in Savannah Convention Center. Joe's going to talk about 21st century destination marketing, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to introduce my wingman. Jeff Hewitt is here with us. Jeff has been the Chief Sales Officer for our organization, Visit Savannah, for the last 15 years. He is currently the Chairman of the Board for the Georgia Association of Convention and Visitors Bureaus. Jeff is retiring at the end of this month after a number of decades leading our industry. So will you help me thank Jeff for his years of service? Okay, Jeff, you have one more job, and that's a click at the right time. Okay? First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here today, Chairman Stevens and House Committee. We very much appreciate the opportunity to present. Scott, it's so great to be back in the Golden Isles. Scott and I worked together throughout the year supporting GACVB as well as our national tourism organizations. Mark, I can't wait for that invitation to play that new golf course. I'll wait till the weather warms up just a little bit, but we'll look forward to that. Scott, you know, your presentation today was terrific. You talked about states to the north and the south of us, but it's also the states to the west of us that we as Georgia are struggling to compete with. So we really appreciate the Georgia legislature taking a look at this. I think we have attacked this challenge at least 3 other times in my 20 years in the state, and I think we're poised for success this time. So let's jump into it. And I think it's time, if we're going to seriously think about Georgia being the #1 state making Georgia #1 for tourism in the country, it's time for Georgia to be bold. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to talk with you a little bit about how we do things in Savannah, and then sort of rotate to a case study that I think you'll appreciate and understand. So in 2024, Savannah, Chatham County's tourism numbers, or number of visitors, was almost 13 million visitors. And you'll notice that I say visitors instead of tourists, and that's very much by design. They are visitors. They are leisure travelers to our destination. They are convention, meeting, trade show attendees. They are people doing business in our city, and they're visiting friends and family. They're all visitors to our city, but they're not necessarily all tourists when they come. They may do touristy things while they're there, but the reality of it is we're talking about positioning our community and our state to bring visitors into town. In 2024, the visitor economy, as we like to call it in the Savannah area, impacted almost 28,000 jobs, attracted over $4 billion in spending. And without the visitor economy and the impact of what we do, each member of our community would have had to pay an additional $4,000+ in local and state tourism, local and state taxes. So let's dig into it a little bit. Next slide, Jeff. So we use, in our organization, we use 2011 as sort of the tipping point. Prior to 2011, you can see in the purple box on the left, and Miss Edna, I'll make sure you get a copy so you can look at it later as well. But you know, our advertising efforts, our promotional efforts were fairly straightforward. TV, print ads, billboards, things of that sort. Since then, you can see how dramatically different the landscape has changed in terms of how we have to reach the consumer. We talk about short-form video. We talk about content marketing. We talk about influencer marketing. We talk about AI and the impact of how AI is affecting how we market the city, the county, the state, and our country. So it's very, very complex these days and not as simple as it once was. So looking at the next slide, Jeff, thank you. So prior to 2011, the industry estimated that to reach that consumer, an organization like ours or Scott's, it took 10 impacts, 10 touch points to reach a visitor before they made the decision to travel to our economy. You know, we look at that center section: inspiration, research and planning, booking, and ultimately experiencing the destination as the travel funnel, the sales funnel. How do we get people from the top of the funnel down? In today's world, we're competing with much more than television and radio. Think about Netflix, think about TikTok, think about all of the distractions in our world today. So in today's world, it takes about 140 touch points to get that consumer from seeing our first visuals to actually converting to booking a reservation. So let's talk a little bit about some of the dollars that we spend in Savannah. Here are 3 examples: Architectural Digest, Garden and Gun, and Better Homes and Gardens. 3 examples of how we're reaching out to leisure consumers to travel to our community. You can see, if you can see, it's not inexpensive to do that type of advertising. A full-page ad in Architectural Digest cost over $200,000. A Garden and Gun, $45,000 just to do a single-page ad. Better Homes and Gardens, again, over $100,000 for a full-page ad. So tourism advertising and promotion is not inexpensive. But all of that is really focused just on leisure tourism. We also are working hard to bring conventions and meetings and trade shows to our communities, filling this facility and the hotels nearby. That means we've got to have interesting and compelling trade show booths when we travel on the road. We have to keep our brand refreshed with up-to-date and current content. And for example, recently we expanded the Savannah Convention Center, and we brought 25 convention planners into our community to experience and be a part of the ribbon cutting ceremony, and then explore our city. That cost us over $60,000 to do that. So now let's shift to some competing destinations, and we'll look at one case study in particular. For example, Pure, Michigan. I'm sure everybody in the room has, at one point or another, has seen the ads for Pure, Michigan. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. That's the case study that I'll present to you. But another example is West Virginia and their Almost Heaven campaign. Almost Heaven, West Virginia resonates. Yeah, it was a John Denver song, but it still carries on today. And that campaign costs them on an annual basis almost $50 million to promote. And a Super Bowl ad for Louisiana cost $500,000 to promote that city for a 30-second campaign. So let's dig into the Pure Michigan campaign for a minute. Most of you are probably familiar with this campaign. This is an example of one of their digital ads. Next slide, Jeff. So in 2025, the state hired a brand new agency, and they decided it was time to be bold. It was time to make a difference. It was time to attract visitors, not just from Michigan, but from around the central U.S., and then ultimately expanded to reaching visitors or potential visitors in the Southeast and West Coast. So, this is an example of how the budget for Pure Michigan grew from year one in 2005, when their marketing budget was just about $5.5 million. This slide takes you through 2015, where the state's marketing budget grew to $29 million. And somehow I lost the next slide in the deck, but that 29 million in 2015 actually grew to almost $40 million in 2024. So what did they do with that money? Well, here's an example in downtown Chicago of a bus wrap or a trolley wrap that that showcases Pure Michigan and drives. They have these buses going all over downtown Chicago promoting Michigan, and they're compelling, they're attractive, and they're seeing eyeballs not only of folks that live and work in Chicago, but the millions and millions of visitors that are in Chicago every single day. Another example, here's the Pure Michigan 400. Think about how popular NASCAR is and the fact that, as you see in the background, Pure Michigan is advertised on their side bumpers, and they've also sponsored cars. But this, again, on the NASCAR circuit is a national opportunity to get eyeballs to the brand of Pure Michigan. This is one of my favorites. Here's a shot of a Detroit Tigers baseball game on national TV with Pure Michigan in the background. Imagine with the exposure of the Atlanta Braves on a daily basis on TBS and so forth, if Explore Georgia was in the background of all of those TV spots. Kroger is a terrific partner with Pure Michigan and uses the Pure Michigan campaign to help promote and sell agricultural products grown in Michigan throughout their stores around that state. Here's an example of how the apple industry up north uses the Pure Michigan logo to convey to their consumers this was homegrown and purchased here. So it's not just a tourism marketing campaign, but it's a campaign that has been embraced throughout the industry to support that state. Here's the big one, right? Coca-Cola, a Georgia-based company supporting the Pure Michigan campaign. Boy, I can just see what that would look like with Explore Georgia on that and the support of Coca-Cola. And something we've tried to do for a number of years but have been unsuccessful, but imagine if every license plate in the state of Georgia said Explore Georgia on top or exploregeorgia.com. Seems like a simple and gentle way to convey that message. And of course, they use similar signage as they welcome folks to the state on the interstates throughout the state. So when Georgia took a look at, when Michigan took a look at it, they also looked at what they call the halo effect. When you promote a state at the level that they are promoting, spending almost $40 million a year to do that, you can see the orange line is folks that were unaware of the campaign. The purple line is are folks that were aware of the campaign. And you can see the dramatic difference of people that are aware of the Pure Michigan campaign and how it affects family travel, sightseeing, entertainment, sports and recreation throughout. So Pure Michigan's results. They generate about 32 million out-of-state visitors each year. Those visitors spend about almost $10 billion with Michigan businesses in the state. And I won't read all of these, but ultimately the ROI on that Pure Michigan campaign is $5.50 for every dollar spent. So what are the three keys for Pure Michigan? A powerful and compelling campaign that brings awareness to potential visitors. A substantial and growing budget, a budget that we're talking to all of you about, and then measuring those results on a regular basis. So how do we make Georgia the #1 state for tourism? Well, it's simple, and we've seen some of the case studies. Like Georgia, Michigan has a world-class tourism product from the mountains up north to this location here in the south. Also like Georgia, Michigan was not once known as a top visitor destination. Today, with the Pure Michigan campaign, it is. And it can be the same for Georgia. So what we know is Georgia has a world-class tourism product, attracting visitors from around the country and around the world. Georgia has a competitive and growing tourism industry, as you've heard about already this morning. And Georgia is dramatically, and I underscore the word dramatically, undermarketed with tourism support from the state. The bottom line is Georgia can do better and must do better. So as we think about going forward and this opportunity that we have, just think about 2026 for just a minute. We have the World Cup coming to Georgia. We are celebrating America's 250th anniversary. And we will go into 2026 basically underfunded at the state level to promote those massive events. Think about in the future, Super Bowls, Final Fours, all of the events that we enjoy, the Masters and so forth. Every opportunity that we have to promote this state, we should be doing that. If Georgia invests boldly, we will grow. And if we don't, we'll stand still. It's very, very simple. So, bottom line is, Jeff, last slide, it's time. Oh, one more slide. Sorry, I think I did that. You didn't catch up. Last one, Jeff, sorry. We didn't get it. So there it is. It's time for Georgia to be bold. It's our opportunity now to step up and compete. When we think about, I think we ranked number 5 in terms of state tourism visitation last year. We have the opportunity to grow that, but it'll take your support and the support of the Senate to take that state marketing budget up. We also feel like, the Explore Georgia organization is poised for success with new leadership, with J. Mark Walter in that position. And I've talked to my peers around the state, William Pate in Atlanta, Benish Brown in Augusta, and others to say, we are willing to serve as Jay's executive committee going forward, so when you all provide Jay with the additional dollars to market this state differently, he'll have an executive committee built of the state tourism leaders from around the state to help him make those decisions and do the research necessary to compete. So, Chairman Stevens, thank you for the opportunity.
Members, questions, comments?
I think you should order one more slide that
Okay.
I did not see.
Which one?
Our baseball.
The Savannah Bananas. Yes,
Bananas.
sure. Well,
And my reason for saying that, I don't care wherever you go, if they find out that you're from Savannah, they want to talk about the bananas. They're very popular at this point, and I'm sure that it will continue. Plus, we have a stadium that is very old, that where the games are played, that's a way of promoting. We have taken what was old and made it something different. But I just
yeah, thank you, Mayor Jackson. The Savannah Bananas have been a huge boost for us. We work in partnership with them as they travel around the country for their games. Our organizations will buy tickets for meeting planners and convention planners and take them to the game to be entertained and to get to sort of wet their whistle about potentially coming to Savannah. And it's been a huge boost. And it's fun. Renee and I were in London in October, and we're walking through Heathrow Airport, and there's a family walking through with Savannah Bananas T-shirts in London Airport. So that was a treat. So thank you for bringing that up.
thank you.
Other members? There we go.
Good.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you,
Appreciate you
Chairman.
coming. Michael Owens is the president and CEO of Tourism Leadership Council. The TLC is the largest trade association representing tourism and hospitality in coastal Georgia. representing the interest of more than 40,000 tourism and hospitality professionals. Michael's going to provide a comparative overview of Georgia standing when considering marketing efforts probably in other states.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'd like to start with just a tiny bit of trivia. In 1733, the ship Anne arrived on a bluff in coastal Georgia. General James Oglethorpe got off of that boat and met Gerald Green. And Gerald told him, lay out the city in squares and parks. And that is why, to this day, public parks and meeting spaces are called green spaces. And I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michael Owens. I'm the President and CEO of the Tourism Leadership Council. We are a nonprofit trade organization, and unlike so many other organizations that you're familiar in your jurisdictions, we are not the marketing arm of tourism. We are the operations arm. We are privately funded, we answer to the industry, and we work on their behalf every day. In Georgia, that's 500,000 jobs. That's 500,000 jobs that cannot be exported. It is over $70 billion in economic impact to this state every single year. And I'll remind you that agriculture is 71. It is likely in the next 5 years that tourism will eclipse agriculture in the state of Georgia, and we will be the #1 provider of economic impact in this state. We are proud of that. We have accomplished a lot in this state. And I want to address something off the top. You don't do nothing for tourism. You do a lot of great things for tourism. This building is a beautiful example of the state's investment in tourism. The newly expanded Savannah Convention Center was $276 million of appropriated funds that creates the largest ballroom in Georgia, a beautiful facility, and a place that throws off economic value to locals and the states every single year. It's not that you don't take care of tourism. We appreciate what you do. What we hope to show you today is that more will get us all more, all of us, from the densest city of Atlanta to rural Georgia to Georgia's beautiful coast. Tourism provides for everyone. Here's my second trivia question, and this can have audience participation. What do you all think is the most powerful brand in the state of Georgia? It's like you knew what was going to happen. Is anyone aware if they engage in marketing at all? This is the big brand. It is the big brand for one of Georgia's most successful companies and one of their greatest companies, and way better than Pepsi. And they've got brands within brands, and you probably have your favorite. We have a similar thing here. We have the big brand. We have Explore Georgia, and it is given to the public in the right way. You know, a few years ago, we spent a lot of money in Savannah to figure out what our byline was going to be. How should we brand Savannah to the rest of the nation? And you're familiar with bylines. Virginia is for lovers. Arkansas is for felons. What is ours? What is ours? And after an enormous amount of research, what we found is that Savannah was special to different people for different reasons. For some, it was history. For some, it was the squares that Chairman Green planned. For some of it, it was architecture or Civil War history, revolutionary history. It was the food. Why would we tell people what they should think about our community? What we needed to remind them was that we were here and we were the perfect place. So we took the word Savannah and we put a verb in front of it, visit. Georgia did the same thing, Explore Georgia. And much like Coca-Cola with its big brand, we have brands under that. There is an enormous amount of resources and money that is spent in making sure these sub-brands, if you will, are also attracting their piece of that big pie under Georgia's great big brand, Explore Georgia. And there are even more sub-brands Within one place, there are more attractions, hotels, experiences. Our beaches here that you heard so much about, that is a huge, important piece. It is a sub-brand within the sub-brand within the sub-brand. There is a little bit of something for everything. It's the great thing about this state, and not many other states can boast this. We've got beaches and mountains and everything in between. You don't need anywhere else. You've got Georgia. What we need to do is make sure Georgia is on your mind. Variety. Variety is what matters in this world. It's what the customer wants. Everybody loves cobbler, but some people like peach and some people like blueberry. Peach is the correct answer, by the way. It is absolutely 100% it. But it's the big brand that matters. That's what we're asking for. We are asking to support the big brand, the brand that all of us are proud of. We put it on our food in Georgia grown. The best thing you can put behind a city's name in this country is the word Georgia. Because Savannah, Maine sounds silly. But Savannah, Georgia, Georgia means something. And we think it means something to our visitors. There's a lot of talk about how much money states spend in tourism. This is actually not a fair comparison. This is what you see. This is what you're used to hearing. But the truth is, if you look at South Carolina over there at 153 million, which is a little bit more than our 11, that includes other things. That includes their parks, which DNR does so well for us here. Right? Different states organize in different ways on how they spend their money, how they manage their parks, attractions, museums, history, and we do it a little bit differently here. We put it under Georgia Economic Development. We've got a tourism office, a little over $11 million. So the real question, right, is what are we spending on the state brand marketing? What you have to remember is that we are in a rivalry. Our customers have choices. They can come here or they can go somewhere else. And they do. And they have done more of that in the last 2 years. I want you aware of that. Our customers have done more of that in the last 2 years. They are choosing other destinations. My staff, several months ago at the request of the Senate, during their Senate study committees, wanted to have an intellectually honest conversation with that committee and give you apples to apples comparison. And for weeks and weeks and weeks, my entire team, including me, I got in the way plenty of times, researched about 11 different states. We pulled their budgets. By the way, Arkansas has incredible transparency. I do want to say that. The felons have worked out the internet. We read committee meetings. We read subcommittee meetings, the minutes, to understand how much was going to each and every state for state brand marketing. And the answer was what we have always known, but here it is. This is what our competitors are spending in state marketing dollars towards the state brand. This is not staffing. This is not grant programs. This is how much each one of these states spend in making sure their state's brand is top of mind awareness in other places. Senator Eccles said, well, you know, some of these states have got a lot more population than we do, or a lot less. Most of them have a lot less. North Carolina, they're pretty close to us in population. So what he asked for, and I provided the committee later and have included it here, is what is the per capita? There we are. Dead last. It's more than hotels. It's more than restaurants. I'm going to stand here awkwardly while we watch this video.
Hi, I'm Dave, proud owner of a working peach orchard and big-time supporter of promoting tourism. So, why does a peach farmer care about tourism? Well, let me tell you a little story about John and Jane. Hi. They thought it would be nice to take a vacation. John had ideas, and Jane had ideas. But as they talked, they couldn't decide where to go. They knew their perfect place was out there. They just had to find it. Jane flipped through magazines. John started noticing the vacation ads on TV. On his way to work, John saw billboards and heard radio ads.
Mostly sunny skies.
And once he got there, he talked to his friends about where they spent their vacations. Jane did some research on the internet, visiting different websites to see which places had what they were looking for. After seeing all their options, John and Jane came to the same conclusion.
We found the perfect place.
They were so excited, they started to plan their trip right away. After booking their flights, John was eager to line up some things to do in the perfect place. So he visited the Perfect Place's website, watched a video, checked out the hotels, bought tickets to a ball game, and signed up for the Perfect Place's e-newsletter especially for visitors. Jane called the toll-free number and spoke to a nice lady who told her everything she needed to know about the Perfect Place. Jane also got the visitor's guide, which helped her learn what theater productions were in town, where to eat, and other things to do in the Perfect Place. So, John and Jane had explored their options, booked their travel, and planned their vacation. They packed their bags and off they went. End of story, right? Actually, this is where the real story begins, because what do you think John and Jane do when they get to the perfect place? Guess what? They spend their money. They spend their money on their rental car, in their hotel, seeing the attractions, enjoying outdoor activities, shopping, and dining out. They're happy they came to the perfect place. You know who else is happy? The hotel they stayed in, of course, and the bellman at the hotel, the workers at the local company that supplies his uniform, the stores they shop at, and the banks they use. And then there's the restaurant where John and Jane ate dinner, and the waitress who served them their wine, she's happy too. So's the local vineyard that grew the grapes that made the wine, the people who bottled it, and the drivers who brought it into town, and the peach farmer who supplied the peaches for the cobbler that the waitress served John and Jane for dessert. That's why someone like me cares about tourism in somewhere like the perfect place. Yes, I'm a farmer, but I'm also a businessman, and I can draw a lot of conclusions from that story. I bet you can too. Tourism creates jobs. It brings in spending, and tourists pay taxes, which means locals pay less. But tourism is competitive, and without the marketing engine that drives it, people like John and Jane will take their money to some other destination where it'll benefit some other local economy. Let's make sure our local economy grows. Let's feed it, nurture it, help it along so it becomes strong, healthy, and delicious.
Why is the ROI so high? Can you name one other thing that our state invests in together that has a higher ROI? It's so high because of all of the lives and careers that our industry touches. I live in a place of 140,000 people in Savannah that has over 13 million visitors. Who do you think's eating more blueberries? Where are the blueberries grown? Where do they come from? They come from Georgia. And all of the businesses in between both benefit and are taxed. You'll have a lot of folks as we go into this session ask an important question. Is it really worth it? Does it work? Does marketing work? Does establishing a brand work? And I'll tell you the experts they should ask themselves. Does marketing work? Happy to take any questions.
Wow. A little speechless. Anybody got questions? Good sign, by the way.
I actually have a question, if it's appropriate. I scoured the internet, and I could not find a single campaign sign for Representative Bill Hitchens, my dear friend. How do you do it, sir? It's well done.
Everybody just loves me.
That's right. That's right. And I do too, Bill. Thank you all for your time. We need your voice. We need your voice. I get asked every year by my friends in the House and the Senate, well, what are we going to do? I say this respectfully, and I do. I know so many of you here. The question is what are you going to do? We elect you. We support you. You are our voice. That's how it works. We need your help. We need your action. And we'll be alongside the whole time, but it's time for all of us to stand up together. Thank you very much.
Mark Williams, are you still here? If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, if you'll come back and you might want to bring Alexa with you. We didn't get a chance, and I did this intentionally, put you as our host at the end. And of course, thank you for the amazing trip last night, for the hospitality, but they may have some questions for you. And it's number one to thank you and see if there's anything else they've got. Members.
Alexa had to go to work, but I'm here.
What a bummer. How long did it take you to get all those lights last night?
We started on those Christmas lights in late September. It's a big chore. We have to rent a lot of bucket trucks and stuff. We have 2 million lights on the island this year, so it grows every year.
And how many, tell us the difference in the number, maybe just, I don't know, since let's just say the past 10 years or so on the visitation.
Is the low point for visitation when everybody started talking about revitalization was about 80,000 cars a year. It didn't get much higher than that until the convention center, I guess when the convention center was built and the hotel partners started coming on. But now we'll do an average of, and that's 80,000 a year now. We'll do an average of probably 115 cars, 15,000 cars a month.
Wow.
So.
Representative Sainz.
Is there anything that we can do in terms of public infrastructure to support you guys continuing to do the leading state project?
No, well, we're self-funded, so we're good, but we have asked the legislature, and I failed to mention when I was pointing out the Public Safety Center, on big capital projects, y'all have been very good to us. This convention center being an example, and then the latest was the Public Safety Center that we moved into, so we appreciate y'all's support and the governor's support on that. We've got a couple of big projects coming this year that we're going to fund. I was interested in the DCA presentation, took a good picture of that of qualified projects. We are out of operations. We're building a new $1.7 million 4-lane water slide that'll be coming this year to Summer Ways. Again, we're brick and mortar stuff because we're built out legislatively by the legislative mandate that we do love. I want to emphasize that. And so our goal moving forward is just to make our experiences more compelling and better for our long-term returning visitors. So infrastructure-wise, we're pretty good.
Yes, ma'am.
Last night.
Let me back up. We do have last year y'all funded about $3 million. The governor put it in his budget. We have a $10 million 10-year plan to redo our water treatment center, just like we're like every small rural town in America and in Georgia with their aging water and sewer treatment plants. So we do have a small ask in this year's budget. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Last night was really wonderful. And I was wondering if you ever thought about working hand in hand with some of the senior citizens communities across this area, the 80 miles from Savannah and other towns, and get them to get involved, because there are so many activities. As people get older, they are not coming out of the house, out of their homes. But something like that tour that could end up with some, what do we drink? Cider, that's it, the cider, those that drink the cider, and then, it's a partnership.
Yeah.
When I saw it last night, I said, oh God, I got a club of, all of us are old and with ailments, but if we could come down here, take a tour and go and have some of this, what you said? The cider. It would be wonderful. And those that are closer to us, I
Yeah,
think it will.
that's a very timely comment and question. Just this last budget cycle, I added one person that's dedicated to group business. Now, that's separate from convention business. And so every day we have I didn't know till I moved down here that there was actually a cruise ship that stopped at the Brunswick Harbor. And they get off, and so every day we have groups of those tour buses. I'm not saying they're all senior citizens, but for the most part, they are. And they get group discounts on all the amenities and the things they want to do. They come on here, get on the trolley. So we're reaching out to as many groups as we can for that senior citizen group business. So great question. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for recognizing me, Chairman. How to say this? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Black travelers contribute about $130 billion in U.S. travel. Georgia's population is 33% Black and 10.5% Latino. What is your current attractions to incentivize multicultural events and or conferences to this area? Because I do believe that you're missing out on a huge population of people that could put some money in your pocket. We like to spend money. We like experiences.
Yeah, we host annual Delta. I'm gonna say this wrong, Representative Jackson. Delta Sigma. A lot of minority fraternities and sorority groups here. We have a rich Black history here. The Wanderer, the last slave ship that came to North America, landed and unloaded on Jekyll. We have a interpretive historic trail down there, and I hope you get to go to our museum because we do a great job. We have a mock-up of the inside of the ship, and we do a lot of interpretation on that part of our history. I think it was the last Black hotel nightclub, the Dolphin Club. Al Williams helps me with this history. Was on the south end of the island where the 4-H Center is now. So we reach out to all groups. We love everybody coming to this island and spending their dollars. So
I have a follow-up. It's more of a comment. Perhaps you may consider maybe doing something like a Black Heritage Coastal Festival where you can highlight more on the Gullah Geechee culture, music, and art, storytelling, something that highlights the historic ties between the African American communities and the Georgia coast, as you stated. And it could be something that could be scheduled during more your off-peak season when you don't have a whole lot of people that are here, so that you can encourage year-round tourism. And then as it relates to my Latino sisters and brothers, you may want to even think about a Latin music and food festival for them, where you're featuring things like salsa, reggaeton, Afro-Latino fusion, Latin street food, and you have maybe some family-friendly dance lesson, cooking demos, just to invite the community down to the area, so that again they're spending money and then they're going home. Thank you for letting me speak.
great idea, and I'd love to talk with you more about that because, like I said, the people coming across that causeway drive what we do, being self-funded. And I don't want 10 years from now have to go to the legislature like I used to with DNR and ask for money for funding. So our off-season months, our slowest months are after Holly Jolly. We get into January and February, and we're always looking for great activation. So love to hear more about your ideas on that.
Other questions? Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank
for
you.
hosting.
Thank y'all for coming again. Merry Christmas. And somebody's got to say it. Go Dogs.
Oh, no. Oh, I just messed up.
You know, it's pretty, and I'll just say this as a, before we get into our announcements, pretty amazing that we've got leadership to a point that makes the water park here autism available. That is a big, big deal. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll raise your hand, Bailey, if you'll make sure Bailey knows that you're here. We got 2 days committee and also your mileage to and from. Please keep Senator Eccles in your prayers. He had a death on his farm and family member. So if you guys will please keep him in your prayers as well. And committee members, we're going to adjourn next door. We're going to have lunch for the committee members, the staff, and the sponsors. And unless there's something else, this is a great committee. I'm glad you guys took the time out to come to this committee. And we shall be adjourned and go to lunch.